So now what we're going to do with that idea, though, is I want you to start thinking about this on a real basic level. If I was playing over a blues progression, okay, 12-bar blues, we're going to be getting into that as well real soon here. But blues is based off the 1-4-5 chord progression, okay? So if I thought about this and I took this A chord and this D chord and this E chord, the first step that I understand about soloing is that I can move through A minor pentatonic, and it's going to sound just fine over those 3 chords. And you know what? It will. It'll sound just fine. Okay? The next step is to start learning how to land on the roots at the right time. Okay? Here's the first definition. If I'm in the key of A, playing an A, D, E chord progression, I'm playing blues right now. Okay, so I got kind of a blues rhythm going. Okay, I've got that kind of thing happening. I could emphasize the A the entire time over all 3 of those chords, and I can sell it. And the reason is because blues says so. Okay. Now again, I'm always going to be intertwining logic with illogic, I'll call it, where we're always dealing with real world situations where just because you understand theory doesn't mean that everything works that way in the real world. A lot of times it does, a lot of times it doesn't. With blues, if you think about it, I'm playing 3 major chords, A, D, and E, but I'm soloing minor pentatonic over the top, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, this week is going to be opening your mind to a lot of questions, and we're going to answer every one of those questions in the weeks to come. But you got to just absorb. You got to think about this. Okay, so we have A, D, and E. So here's what's happening is on that A chord, I could solo and try and emphasize the note A. Over the D chord, I could still solo in the key of A minor pentatonic and land on A's. It's going to sound just fine. Over E, I could still solo and land on the A's, and it's going to sound just fine. Okay? The problem is, after a while, you're probably going to get kind of bored with just landing on the A's all the time, but let's make a note of that. At least at this point, you're emphasizing something. Because what happens with a lot of players is that they get into a scale position and they just start moving around. There's no rhyme, no reason, no purpose for anything. They're just moving. Now, I use that as a technique, and we're going to be talking about meandering a bit more today. That's what the technique is called, is meandering. But meandering isn't a musical thing, it's a technical thing. So if you think about it, if all you're doing is moving around aimlessly forever over a chord progression, you're really not in tune with what's being played. You're just playing over the top of something. You're just moving, okay? The goal is to give yourself purpose. So the first step in giving yourself purpose is to start landing on the right notes at the right time. Now, that's a broad thing to say, but let's start nice and general. Over the A, I start emphasizing A. D chord comes up, I start emphasizing D. And then A comes back. Now here comes that E chord. Here comes that D. Here comes the A. So I start following those chords around, okay? I call it note chasing or chord chasing, and there's lots of different ways I'll be using that term. But that's the basic first step, is learning to move and try and emphasize something that correlates with the chord that's being played, okay?